Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Star Trek Discovery is finally coming to an end in 2024. If you know me, and if you ever watch any of my Star Trek videos, you know I don't like New Trek. And of course, New Trek started with the JJ movies, and then it later went on to the CBS All Access stuff with Discovery and Lower Decks and et cetera, like Picard and stuff like that. And so I've ragged on this show before to the part of like frustration because I do not like this show. Am I happy that it's getting I don't know if it's ending or getting canceled. But in my opinion, ending and canceling is really the same thing. It's basically somebody not wanting to go forward. So it's basically the same thing. Am I happy that it's finally getting canceled? Yes and no. Am I gonna rub it in people's faces and jump up and down? No, because I'm not that kind of nasty person. There are legitimate people who actually like this show, both new fans and old fans. But when this show first started, like myself, many people were flabbergasted. And so a lot of diehard fans just do not like New Trek or Discovery and stuff. However, over time, many people who hated this show have, turned around and started liking this show or loving this show. And so, but it's never been a show for me. Now, I watched season 4, some of it. I didn't get to finish because, I don't have the app no more and stuff. And so I never got to finish season 4, so I really don't know how it is. Now I will admit some stuff in season 4 was actually pretty good, and it was a whole lot better than what this show used to be. But even though it had changed and it was a bit better, I still wasn't 100% thrilled about this show, And for me, I always no matter what, even if I didn't like it, I still watched it because I was hoping that it would go back to old Trek and everything. And the thing is, it's quite a shame. They had the budget, they had for CGI and stuff like that. They had a really good a CGI team and stuff like that. The actors were cool and everything. It's just this show just never did it for me. I remember being shocked and confused when I watched this show for the very first time. And I could not believe what I was watching. Nothing felt right about this show. The way characters portrayed themselves didn't seem right. It was so dark. It was so gritty. The technology was wrong for that period of time. And the shit was just enormous looking. And I was just kind of like, what the heck is going on? And so they were very adamant about this is canon and this and that. So I'm all like, you gotta prove it, man, 'cause I just don't feel it. If they would have said this is in the JJ universe, I'd be like, okay, I'm a little bit more forgiving and everything. And then I would start accepting it for what it was. But when they kept saying it was canon, to somebody who's a diehard Star Trek fan who started with Next Generation, this just didn't do it for me, and it literally broke my heart. I made videos talking about how New Trek has broken my heart because it just doesn't feel genuine and everything. And the thing is, the people who was creating this did not know really what they was doing. They kept trying to make things more suitable for modern dramatic TV, darkness, grittiness, all this other crap, and that's not really what Star Trek was about. It was about exploring, teaching life lessons, and this and that. And when you have the main character, Michael Burnham, being this very temperamental type person, a mutineer, fighting with so many of her crewmates don't like her. The first season just came off in a very nasty taste in my mouth. Everybody was negative. The person we supposed to root for wasn't even the captain. She was a former disgraced officer who later kept rising to the ranks high as she could, even though she didn't deserve it. And that was the main problem right there. They tried to go back to that old TOS style where you have Kirk and Spock being the main person, but all like pushed into one character, and she was too perfect. She kept making flaws sometimes, but she was just too perfect at everything she did. And she was literally the only person getting any real screen time. Still, to this day, I do not know any of the other officers' name. And I even forgot the tall dude. Like, I used to know his name, Saru. That's it. Like, only those two names I really know. And then after a while, I knew Stamets and everything, and Dr. Hugh something. See, I don't even remember these people's name, and that's because this was so much different than what real Star Trek is. In Star Trek, starting with Next Generation, or even so much TOS, you knew who those characters were. They were always referred to by name, always referred to by rank. You knew what positions they had. And for here, I could not recognize the formation of Star Trek with this show. And so I grew frustrated and I became like an enemy of this show. And I didn't want to do that because I love Star Trek. And so as time kept passing, nothing changed. Season 2 was like just as crazy as season 1, and I still learned nobody's name. And I still grew to hate Michael Burnham. And so by season 3, things started to change. They decided, all right, we're going to stop breaking continuity. We're going to go far into the future and all this other stuff. But they still made Michael Burnham the central character. And I always felt bad for the rest of the cast. They never had a time to shine. And then there was like, characters on the show who kept disappearing because the actors and actresses started finding jobs elsewhere. And it's kind of like, well, if they're not going to get no screen time on this, then what's the point of them being on the show? You know what I'm saying? And you kept seeing that as like time kept passing by. So many people kept leaving the show. But this show lasted a lot longer than I thought. I thought for sure this show was going to get canceled at the first season, but people kept hating watching it and stuff. And when you hate watch something, you're gonna get renewals, and that's what happened and stuff, because people like myself kept watching because we was hoping it would be real Star Trek at some point. And so like it never really was. And so after a while, it was just no point in having Paramount Plus, CBS All Access, whatever you want to call it. It was no point for me having that no more because I wasn't enjoying myself now. And then the same thing happened with other Star Trek shows. I hate Lower Decks to death. In my opinion, Lower Decks is the worst Star Trek show to ever get created. I was very heartbroken by the Picard show and everything. Now, I do plan on watching, other stuff that I missed out on at some point in time when I get Paramount Plus again. I know the first episode of Stranger Worlds I liked and everything, but even people said even that show has a bit of problems. Because see, the thing is, when they try so hard to go back into old Trek, they do it in such an artificial way that it doesn't feel real or genuine. Like, take the crew of Discovery when they wanted Michael to become, was it Michael to become first officer or captain or something like that? Or was it Tilly? It was somebody who was going to get high up in the position. And they didn't know if they should do it. And so the crew's all like, say yes. Everybody kept saying that one after another. I'm like, who the heck says stuff like that? One after another, and especially a crew on Star Trek. And it didn't feel genuine. And the only reason why they said it is because they needed something to say so they could get paid for being on the show. And then, of course, there was the whole Tilly thing. A character that rose so high in the ranks that made no sense. She is the most un-Star Trek character ever. I like the actress a lot, but she was the most un-Star Trek character ever. And then there was the whole ripping off the baby's head in season, 2 or something like that? I'm just kind of like, this ain't Star Trek, man. Like, it really isn't. And so I don't know what caused the ending cancellation of this show, but it was about high time. Even the showrunners kept dropping like flies off the show. And it was even to the point where season 3, they had a reduced budget because they spent way too much in season 2. And it pissed a lot of fans off. And, I hope to God this is a lesson for whatever new Star Trek shows coming out. I hope that they just go back to formula and everything. Like, just, they can do episodic stuff. They can do that. If they don't want to do that, they can do a story arc. But not everything has to be world ending kind of crap. I mean, look at Picard. You have the whole Borg wormhole thingy, whatever that was, that at the end of season 2, and that never got explained. Then you have the aliens with the tentacles at the end of season 1, and that further never got explained. Why haven't they tried to reopen up the wormhole and try to come through? I mean, they got the signal to help out machines and stuff like that. And, you know, then it's like characters just kept disappearing who was the part of the main show. And they realized, okay, crap, we have to start bringing back the old cast because this ain't working. And so every new person who was brought onto that show disappeared, except for Raffi and everything. And I'm still pissed about what they did to Seven of Nine. She is not the same Seven of Nine she was 20-something years ago. She is no longer an intelligent woman. She just goes around murdering people in season 1. Then all of a sudden, now she's back in Starfleet all of a sudden, and now she's the first officer. When and how and everything, you know? And so if you can't give a good coherent story, you don't need to be making a show. Plain and simple as that. Now this is the second new Trek show to end. Picard and Discovery is now coming to an end. I am waiting for Lower Decks to come to an end. And Strange New Worlds, I have no idea what the rest of that's even about, but hopefully it's good. Now, because of Michelle Yeoh winning those awards, now CBS is all like, oh yeah, remember that Section 31 show we was gonna create? Yeah, let's do it now, because it's been in development for so long. But then when she started winning awards and being in movies, oh, now they want to capitalize on that. And personally, I don't want to see a Section 31 show. Why? Because it's just gonna be a dark and gritty show, just like, you know, all these other Star Trek shows were. And because it's Section 31, oh, they're gonna be even more dirtier and more grittier and stuff. And so, like I said before, I am happy that this show has finally come to an end. It lasted longer than I thought. But I remember telling myself, how is this show still getting renewed? And I'll be pissed if it outlives all the other Star Trek shows and stuff. And so, like, finally they have pulled the plug for whatever reason. And, you know, and I feel bad for everybody involved in that show. I feel bad for, like, the production crew, some of them. I feel bad for all the actors because they never ever been able to be on a real genuine Star Trek show. And, you know, and people have let them know that to their frustration, to where they have defended the show. But it's kind of like, how can you defend something that truly, I do mean this in the nicest way I can, truly something that's not that great and everything, you know? It was never a great Star Trek show. When they managed to make Enterprise a good, decent show, then you know you were in trouble and everything. And so from what I'm seeing online, it is ending, not getting canceled, but season 4 ended in March of 2022. The next season is coming out in early 2024. And I'm just kind of like, man, they're just gonna bypass the entire 2023 year and everything. And, you know, that's a long time to wait. So it makes you wonder what happened behind the scenes. I mean, something happened. I don't care what the word ending means. Canceled is canceled. Somebody decided to not renew this show and go forward. And how can you when most of your cast is like disappearing from the show? So hopefully if they ever make a new Star Trek show, I'm hoping to God they go back to formula. I just want good Trek. You know, I want the Orville. And I'm pretty sure the Orville is probably going to get canceled because Hulu has been waiting for a very long time to let people know if it's been renewed or not. And so that's never a good sign when you wait this stinking long. So most likely that show is going to get canceled too. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.